Yo guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan, and today I'm going to be doing my June 2020 NHL mock draft and top 60 prospect rankings. Now, with the 2020 NHL Draft Lottery just a month away, I've been finalizing a lot of my NHL prospect rankings. It isn't complete, of course, yet. The complete rankings will become reality in July, but the month before, I have a lot more of an idea of a lot of these prospects, so I thought, hey, I would expand it to a top 31 to now a top 60 prospect ranking. So, which prospects do I see as the best in this draft, and what do my top 60 rankings actually look like? Watch till the end for all the rankings and picks, and of course, hit that big red subscribe button for more videos just like this one. Now, just like the other prospect rankings on this channel, this isn't necessarily a mock draft where I see these teams taking these specific players. These are my top 60 prospect rankings, who I think are the best prospects from 60 down to 1, at least currently. Although these rankings are bound to change from now to next month, these are pretty much finalized on how I see these prospects right now. So we're gonna go into this top 60 with the top 20 as well. I assigned a team next to each one. Again, I don't think these teams will select these specific players necessarily. These are my prospect rankings, but I put a team alongside them to see potentially where these prospects might go. And now that you've seen the 60 through 21 rankings, we're now going to get into my top 20 rankings for the month of June for the 2020 NHL Draft. And starting out at number 20, I have German forward, not Tim Stützle, but Lukas Reichel. I know, I almost scared you guys, sorry about that. But Lukas Reichel is a guy that I'm very fond of, left-wing German, who just turned 18 this month in May, and had a great DEL campaign that for a lot of people has gone pretty unnoticed. Got 24 points in 42 games played, was 8th in team scoring in the DEL, and in the World Juniors got 5 points in 7 games. Although there is some things to work out when it comes to the defensive area, offensively I think he's a fantastic mind, great skater, and the puck skills just speak for themselves. Now going into my 19th best prospect for the 2020 draft, I have QMJHLer Mavrik Bourque. Now, Mavrik Bourque is, just like Lukas Reichel, a guy that I like quite a bit. In the QMJHL this year, got 71 points in 49 games, which his 1.45 point per game was 9th in the entire QMJHL, which is pretty great for a draft-eligible player. And I think Bourque is a guy that's just overall a very solid, complete player. Doesn't really have anything that super stands out for me personally, but is a guy that just gets the job done. A guy that I think could be a pretty solid and complete middle six player when it's all said and done. Now going on to my 18th best prospect in the 2020 NHL Draft, I have forward from the NCAA, Dylan Holloway. Now he jumped up, or I guess dropped, from 13 to 18, and that's not really against him per se. It's just that there was a lot of prospects that I got to see more of that just enticed me more, especially when it comes to potential. Dylan Holloway is a guy who I think will become a solid middle six guy. Had a solid year in the NCAA, all things considered, 17 points in 35 games. I don't think Holloway is going to become this absolutely amazing superstar, and that's why I have him a little bit lower, but the overall skill set is very solid. I love his defensive and physical game, and that's a guy you can plug on the third line, maybe even the second line, and be pretty content with. Now going on to my 17th best prospect in the 2020 draft, I have American defenseman Jake Sanderson. Now, I still am not on the hype train as much as some other people, but I definitely do see where people are coming from when they have him inside their top 15. Jake Sanderson is an excellent all-around defenseman, and defensively definitely has the better edge compared to a guy like Jamie Drysdale. Although I don't think the offensive potential is nearly as good, that's a guy I could totally see becoming a top 4 defenseman and being one of the better defensive players in the entire NHL. Now going on to my 16th spot for the 2020 NHL Draft, I have Canadian center Jacob Perreault. Now, if I like the guy like Lukas Reichel, I really love Jacob Perreault, quickly becoming one of my favorite prospects in this draft, and overall just had a very solid year as an 18-year-old who turned 18 in April. Again, Canadian center at 5'11". In the OHL this year, got 70 points in 57 games with the Sarnia Sting, was 2nd in team scoring, and like Reichel, I think there is some things to work out on away from the puck, but when he does have the puck, he is an absolutely magical player, and throughout the year got better and better at creating offensive chances for himself. I think the puck skills are amazing, the shot is brilliant, and he has one of the best potentials to become one of the best goal scorers and better playmakers of this draft. Now going inside the top 15, and at number 15, I have another Canadian forward from the OHL, that being Jack Quinn. Now, Jack Quinn is one of the most interesting cases in this draft. Got 89 points, 52 goals in 62 games played. That 89 points was good for 8th in OHL scoring, but with the same time there in Ottawa, he was on one of the best teams. He was born in September, so he was one of the oldest players in this draft alongside Marco Rossi. But even with those things, I still think he'll be a pretty solid top 6 player. He's slobbing alongside the power play. He has an excellent shot, and the offensive awareness is bar none. And you might say, oh, that was a pretty good description, and I would agree, but there is still 14 players who right now I think are better than Jack Quinn, which just shows how top-heavy this draft really is. Coming in number 14, I have Russian winger Rodion Amirov. And just like a Jacob Perreault, Amirov is becoming one of my favorite players in this draft. Very shifty, very sneaky, but smart at the same time with great puck skills. Amirov really does bring it all, I think. I don't think there's like first-line dominant potential there, but I think that's a guy that can become a top 6 winger, most likely on the second line, who can just shut down guys with his great defensive awareness and can also score on the other end. That's a guy that is very sneaky, very crafty, and I think will be a great NHL player once he's finally developed. Now going into the best goaltender of the draft with the 13th spot, and of course that will be Russian goaltender Yaroslav Askarov. Now, Askarov is making my rule that I never put goaltenders in the top 10 very difficult and complicated, because he is easily, far and away, the best goaltender of this draft. If there's any goaltender to become a clear-cut number 1 starter and to become dominant, Askarov is 100% that bet. Was great in all competitions and great in the VHL, and that's a guy at such a young age, who is still 17 by the way, has all the potential in the world. Now going into the 12th spot, and finally, after so much time getting past the goaltenders, now going on to another skater, I have Canadian forward Dawson Mercer. Now Dawson Mercer is a guy that's been rising up my ranks, and for very good reason. Over the course of the season in the QMJHL, got 60 points in 42 games, which doesn't seem spectacular, but he got 42 points in 26 games with Drummondville, and then got traded to Chicoutimi, which I always have a tough time pronouncing, and got 18 points in 16 games played there. Was just not the same amount of ice time and the opportunity. So I think with Dawson Mercer, the talent is there, the potential is there, I think, to become a top 6 guy. He already proved that in Drummondville, and his offensive skills are one of the best across the entire CHL too. Now going on to my 11th best prospect in the 2020 draft, going to, in my opinion, the best WHLer of the draft, that being Seth Jarvis. Now the 5'10 winger is one of the most interesting cases and prospects in this draft. Got 98 points in 58 games in the WHL, being second in WHL scoring. And Seth Jarvis is a guy that just completely clicked in the second half. In the first half, he was a little bit more raw, less complete, but he also got a lot less ice time. And as he worked towards that ice time and scraped and clawed, he got more ice time and just kept performing and performing. That's a guy that just rose so much over the season, but he just rose to the occasion. Now getting us inside the top 10, and at number 10, I have Swedish winger Noel Gunler. 13 points in 45 games in the SHL this year, and although he is more on the older side when it comes to draft prospects, I think is also one of the more complete ones. Now, consistency has been one of the big problems of Gunler, but that was the same thing with Kirby Dach, and we saw how solid he was in the NHL this year. I think he can correct that. Just in terms of pure skill, Gunler is one of the best in this draft, with an amazing high upside ceiling that can potentially produce a first-line offensive wing. Now, speaking of potential top-line wingers, going at number 9, I have another Swedish winger, that being Alexander Holtz. Now, Alexander Holtz is a guy who has one of the best shots in the draft, and I personally think is the best goal scorer of the draft, at least when it comes to pure potential. That's a guy that was so good in the SHL when he did get the ice time. 9 goals, 7 assists, and 16 points in 35 games, and was 10th in team scoring. Over there, I think in the SHL, he might need maybe a year or 2 more. But Holtz is a guy that just has a very solid skill set, and I think when it comes to the absolute shot that he has, could potentially score upwards of 30, maybe even 40 goals in the NHL if it does go right. Now going in at number 8, and my favorite prospect in the 2020 draft, I have Finnish center Anton Lundell. Anton Lundell is a guy that, if we're talking about the most complete games when it comes to forwards, Anton Lundell definitely has that. One of the smartest players in this entire draft, both on offense and defense. Positionally is, in my opinion, the best in the draft as well, and just getting in the right places when he needs to. Although there might not be a 100-point upside there, I could see him scoring 70-plus points a couple of times in his career, and also being a Selke nominee as well. And now going in at number 7, my 7th best prospect in the 2020 draft, I have Canadian center Cole Perfetti. Now, Cole Perfetti is one of the most interesting prospects in this draft because his high-end upside is absolutely unreal. He got 111 points in 61 games this year, which was second in OHL scoring. And although I think there is deservedly some criticism of his skating, his awareness and his intelligence is one of the best in this draft, and his puck skills can just look absolutely insane. If he can get a little bit more fast when it comes to his skating, that's a guy that could be a legal first line, potentially center, at the NHL level. Now going on to number 6, and my best defenseman in the 2020 draft, I have OHLer Jamie Drysdale. Jamie Drysdale to me is a guy that I don't see as a top 3 prospect, but definitely I see as the best defenseman in the draft, finding himself in the top 6. Got 47 points in 49 OHL games, 3rd in team scoring for the Erie Otters, and as a guy who just turned 18 in April, already possesses such a mature all-around game. Although there is some nitpicks to be there, especially when it comes to maybe his transition numbers, when it comes to against, he might have some trouble limiting opponents coming back to him. That's still a situation where there is some things to learn. At the same time, his potential is a top 2 NHL defenseman, especially with the skating, the puck skills, and the awareness that he has. Now getting us inside the top 5, and for my best OHLer in the 2020 draft, I have Marco Rossi, the Austrian stud. Although he is one of the more older prospects alongside Jack Quinn with a September birthday, is easily one of the best prospects in this draft in my opinion. 5'9", that should not worry you. He is super balanced, super gravity centered with his skating, and that's a guy that is so strong on his skates that it doesn't even matter. He was first in OHL scoring with 120 points in 56 games, and was just an absolutely dominant player. Although the skating wise, I think there is some problems with his pure skating speed. His skating by itself is very sound, very compact, and with the puck skills that he has, with the awareness that he has, that is a skill set that I think can produce potentially an 80-plus point player in the NHL someday if he is used correctly. Now going on to my 4th best prospect in the 2020 draft, this is where German stud Tim Stützle will land. 34 points in 41 DEL games, and even if you have him in my top 3, I personally don't. I can totally see where you'd be coming from because the skill set and the high octane upside is certainly there. The skating is one of the best in this draft, and the puck skills are fantastic too. The awareness has also been getting steadily better as well. I think he might potentially need another year in the DEL or maybe in the AHL before he's a full-time NHL player, but that's a guy that still, with the skill set he has, could be very dangerous someday. Now coming in at my 3rd spot, I have the last of the Swedish wingers, Lukas Raymond. 10 points in 33 SHL games, which on paper is not too impressive, but when you factor in the amount of minutes he played, which was on average like 5 minutes a game, it definitely shows a different color of paint. Because with Lukas Raymond, to get that amount of points with such little ice time is a pretty good accomplishment for a guy who was 17 for a decent chunk of this season. But when it comes to pure potential and pure skill, Lukas Raymond, in my opinion, is the 3rd best in this draft, behind Quinton Byfield and Alexis Lafreniere. He just possesses so much smarts, so much creativity, and just overall great puck skills and skating that for an offensive guy is almost too tantalizing for me personally to pass up. Now coming in at my 2nd spot on my 2nd best prospect in the 2020 draft, I have Canadian center Quinton Byfield. And although he has been slipping in some people's rankings, for me personally, he will not slip. He has, in my opinion, the only potential that could rival Alexis Lafreniere, just in terms of pure upside and what he could potentially do. 6'4", 17-year-old center who, again, doesn't turn 18 until freaking August, and was pretty solid in the OHL too. 82 points in 45 games, and was first in team scoring for the Sudbury Wolves with not much scoring help around him. That's a guy that I think might need another year in the OHL, but that isn't a problem for me personally, because he's such a young player but already such a great offensive specimen. If he can use his physical size more, that's a guy that pretty much has everything in his toolbox to become a dominant first-line center in the NHL. And now going on to the number 1 pick, which of course will be QMJHLer Alexis Lafreniere. He is the best prospect in this draft. I think has a higher upside than Quinton Byfield, but it is still pretty close. In the QMJHL, got 112 points in 52 games played, which was first in QMJHL scoring. He will be an NHL player next season, and that's because of the hard work he does. His work ethic is fantastic, but his overall skill set is very amazing too. Puck skills are great. Defensive game is great. Skating is very solid and got better as the year went on. And his overall game doesn't really skip a beat either. He always pushes hard in the defensive zone. He's a great physical player as well, being 6'1", and is a guy that truly, in the sense of the words, brings everything that you'd want in a first-line winger. But that'll be it for today's prospect rankings. Of course, if you guys are just watching here and you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell for more videos just like this one. Make sure you comment down below your thoughts on my rankings, what do you agree and disagree with, and also let me know what your rankings look like. Make sure you share this video with your friends, get it out there, and click on this card right here to watch all of my 2021 NHL draft content right in one playlist. My name is Nathan. That'll be it for today's mock draft. Thanks so much for watching. I love y'all's faces, and I'll see you guys next video or stream. Goodbye.